Hello, my beautiful friends. If you are new here, welcome to my channel and thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Shay and this is my channel, A Book Affair. If you are returning, hey girl, hey, hi guy, hey. I cannot believe that the month of June is over. It's over. It's a bit crazy to say that we are now in July. Okay, but we are here. June's over. We are starting literally Q3 or the second half of 2025, whatever you want to call it or identify it as. We are in it. This year is moving, y'all. It has somewhere to be. And if it has somewhere better to be, I'll go with it because this year is still very, very rough. Okay. But as you can see, since June is over, this is going to go ahead and be that June wrap up. Now, I'm going to go ahead and insert in the next clip, show you guys, give y'all just a reminder of the books that I did have on my June TBR to read for this month. It was a total of 7. So let me go ahead and show you guys that as a reminder. So these are my stats for the month of June. I had 7 books that I plan on reading, but I think in the previous video too, when I was choosing these books, these reads from the color wheel, I think I said like it'll be still a good month for me if I read about 4 or 5 books. And here you will see that I did read 4 of the 7. All right, so let me just grab these books from behind me right here. Okay, my friends, here are the books for the June TBR that the color will help me choose. So unfortunately, I did not get around to When You Were Everything. And I've expressed to you guys that I was really excited to read this book. Again, just a quick overview. This is more so of I believe, a coming of age story where it seems like 2 friends in high school just eventually grow apart and they're no longer are friends. I think I just did not get a chance to read this just because you guys will see when I go through and review the books that I did get a chance to read. This month was a bit mixed. It was a bit lackluster for me. And so I think I just was like, you know, I'm only going to read things that really have my attention, or I'm not going to start something that I really do want to read and not give it a fair shot. I feel like that's kind of where I was. And so since this is a book that I really do want to give a fair chance, I was like, I'm not going to tarnish it because of how I'm currently feeling about this month's read. So I didn't want to do that to Ashley. So therefore I didn't get a chance to pick it up. So that's why I did not get a chance to read When You Were Everything. Next one is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. Cover, serve face all day. I actually think I just saw that there's a 4th book out. Baby, I'm behind. I am so behind. And so, yes, I did not get a chance to read The Gilded Ones. And again, just really mainly because I am in a slump from series. Like, I'm just really not interested in starting series right now. Part of me wants to, but then part of me is just like, no, I just really want to read a standalone. Now, there are a few exceptions, right? But this is like a brand new series that I have yet to begin, right? And I just didn't want to, again, just give it a unfair chance, kind of like with the previous book I just mentioned, of not really being in the headspace and not giving it a fair shot, right? And so I didn't get to her. And again, this cover is just gorgeous, but hopefully, I don't know, I may be more so in the fantasy mood kind of when the weather starts to cool off a little bit. All right, last book of the 7, or of the 3 that I did not get to read of my 7. The long title, The Care and Feeding of Ravenously Hungry Girls by Anissa Gray. I was looking forward to reading this book because of the family drama. There were seemingly, I believe there's themes of a family who was well respected in our town, and then just something happened and they kind of lost that. And then I believe like a sister and her husband went to jail because of something, right? So again, family drama. Wanted to get into it. However, again, want to also give this book a fair shot. and not go into it when I feel like I'm not exactly ready to be in that headspace. All right, so moving on now to the first book of the 4 that I actually did complete for this month's June TBR is The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. Now, this book, I did give it a 3-star. My dog's busting in. Hey, mama. Hi, baby. He gonna take you. He gonna, I promise. He gonna take you. He gonna take you out. Oh, he gonna take you outside. Well, wait. You good? Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. My dog, she just busted in my office. She's ready to go out, but my husband's gonna take her because he knows I'm recording. But also, he said, I'm about to eat my chicken wings real quick. So she's probably like, y'all, one of y'all two needs to hurry up. But anyway, yes, The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. And of course, I'm going to insert a picture of the book as well as the star rating. I did give this book a 3. Now, I think I did pause this book and go into one of the other books that's on the TBR because I just was like, what are we doing? It was a bit slow. I know it's considered a thriller. It was a bit slow. And there were some parts where I was, a bit shocked or surprised. And overall, like the story was there. I don't know. It was just maybe just really not being able to connect possibly to the characters. Again, the plot essentially was there. But I think it just somewhat was the execution for me. I did really enjoy the sister Fern, surprisingly. I did enjoy her and just how she her character grew and developed throughout the story. But again, I just think there were just some things that were missing for me that made it a bit more thrilling. Of course, there were some parts, and then I did also find I think the diary entries, I believe the diary entries was from the sister Rose, to be, I don't want to say confusing, because obviously once you get to the end, it makes sense to the plot. But yeah, still it really didn't do it for me. And so that's why I settled on a 3, because it's not that it's a bad book. For anyone who's interested in a thriller, I don't mind recommending this, but I'm not quite sure if I want to read another Sally Hepworth book though after this, right? So yeah, I'm not exactly sure if I would necessarily immediately run to another Sally Hepworth book, but I mean, it was decent for what it was. So that was that. Now, the next book that I did go into is A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn, this thick one. I actually think I started this one on my Kindle. So yeah, A Not So Meet Cute, I actually gave this one a 3.5. This book was much more entertaining to me, I mean, obviously, right, than The Good Sister. However, for a romance, there were still some things like just really missing for me as well. I felt like the story was a tad bit longer than it had to be, honestly. Let me see how many pages. 409. It was 409 pages. I don't think it needed to be 409 pages. I forgot the character's name. Huxley and Lottie. Yes, Huxley and Lottie. Now, it was just, I don't know, the stars aligned for them to both need each other at the exact moment that they needed each other. And obviously that is what happens in these types of books. And so, I was down, I was interested, like pretty much everything bad that could happen for Lottie happened at the very beginning. And then Huxley says something that pretty much sticks his foot in his freaking mouth, and now he has to clean it up. And they both need pretty much the same thing at the same time. And here they go, A Not So Meet Cute or whatever, right? But yeah, so it was interesting in the sense of really seeing how their dynamics and how they were going to work in this like arrangement. I will say that, I don't know, like there were moments where I was like, okay, Lottie, I understand where you're coming from regarding Huxley and his demeanor and I guess not being nice or personable or whatever word she would use. But then sometimes I was like, girl, like you were just nagging. And I don't want to say nagging like in a negative way, but I mean, how else does someone mention nagging if it's not in like a negative connotation? But I was like, girl, just chill. Like, You need him, he needs you. But I also understand that because of the favor she was doing for him, she wanted more of like a connection, which, you know, eventually we got there. And there, you know, obviously there were also some spice, and I will say the spice was a little like, okay, I see y'all. But one thing I did keep thinking of when I was reading this book is I do enjoy when there is a marriage of convenience aspect and the male main character is a billionaire. I love that. However, I kept thinking, are there any stories like this with black characters, like where the black male is the billionaire and he meets a black woman and it's something similar? Like, I kept thinking about that, and I haven't even had the chance to look it up. But if y'all know, let me know, because I also love The Dreamland Billionaires, right, by, is that Lauren Asher? By Lauren Asher. And so I do really enjoy that. Now, those books, chef's kiss. This one, Not So Me Cute, it feels just like a bit short for me, just for some of those, you know, aspects that I mentioned briefly a few moments ago. But I just was like, oh my gosh, some of this language, like COCK, that sounds very cringe when you listen to it audio. It's like, you know, we don't really say that, but you know, I get it. Like, okay, I get it. But I don't know. It was that for me. It was like, okay, cool. Like, all right, you know. But the spicy scenes, they were cool. They were cool, and how their relationship evolved. They both did evolve, obviously. Well, probably not as obviously, but they both did evolve in my eyes. However, I just feel like it could have been, I don't know, maybe 50 page is shorter, and who knows if I would have felt differently. It probably would have been the difference between a 3.5 to a 4. So, but that's where I landed with a Not So Me Cute. On to the next one. Good Dirt by Jen Besser and Shayna Fest. You guys, I was so excited to read this book. So I got this book November 2024 in my book of the month box. I got this book because it was about a woman who lives in Dallas, Texas. She's married, and then she also kind of just was going on, I guess, a journey of just rediscovering self. And, you know, she took on the stories of women and their like sexual desires and things of that nature. And so this book, the very first scene, I think it's considered the prologue. I'm not even sure if it's the first chapter. Let me check. Yes, it's actually the prologue. So the very first, like the prologue, and I actually did start off by reading this book, and then I just had to find the audio. But the prologue was very, you know, it catches your attention. And so as the story developed, I just feel like there was a lot of disconnect. I really wanted to love this book, which I really, really did want to. And again, I think it was just a bit too disjointed for me. It was going from like the present day and how the wife was feeling about her marriage and like the lack of connection or sex, and then it would jump to, I don't know, like her and her friends, like scenes with her and her friends, and then them talking about, I don't know, things, and then it would jump to a scene like of her past, and then it started getting good or interesting to me, where I was like, okay, keep going, Shay. Like chapter 10, I think, and I really did prefer the scenes with someone of her past more than the scenes with her husband in present day. And I think the authors just should have spent more time of like getting things aligned chronologically, maybe, or perhaps finding better placements of her past and making it relevant to what was going on between her and her husband and the struggles in their present day. I hope I did not confuse y'all. Either way, it was very disjointed for me. And so when we get to the very end, of course, there are, I believe, like 2 more books. So it may be a trilogy right now. Got to the very end, and the moment a certain person enters the scene and their identity is unknown, I was like, oh, this must be that person. And of course, it was that person. So, but there were a lot of unanswered questions, which obviously makes you want to read book 2. But I'm not even interested in book 2. I said, no, I'm not going through that again. I'm not going through everything feeling very disjointed and disconnected and a bit like all over the place for me. So unfortunately, didn't love it like I want to, and I had to settle for a 2.5. I gave it a 2.5 instead of a 2 is because I'm like, I feel like there is potential there, right? the pieces were there, they were just not necessarily in the right place. And so that's why I wanted to give it more so of a 2.5 instead of a 2. So that is Dirty Diana by Jenny Besser and Shanna Fist. All right, last book on my June TBR. And this, honestly, y'all, is my only 5-star book. Good Dirt by Charmaine Wilkerson. Charmaine, come. I summon you. No, joking, but no, but like seriously, love this book. I was a bit afraid to go into this book, and that's only because, as y'all heard from the books that I've had, there was really nothing that like made me like feel like, oh, I can't wait for my next read. Unfortunately, in the month of June, and I feel like it's because May, I had such a wonderful month. In the month of June, I felt like I was on the border of dreading my next read, right? And I was just like, girl, you got like so many books to read. But I was like, girl, you're not really feeling any of them. And so I went into Good Dirt and I was like, okay, I just need something. And not necessarily knowing what that something was, but I know that something was not given by any of the previous books I had mentioned, right? And so I went ahead and used my, I believe it was my last credit on Everend, because I have the premium package where you get 3 premium unlocks a month with my subscription. So I used it. And honestly, that book was redemption for the month of June. It was a great book. It was a great book. It's a story of a family, of unfortunately, you know, a tragedy that happens, and it just shows how it has impacted the sister. And obviously, as we know with trauma, it follows you, right, by how it shaped her, but also the vase that is mentioned, and obviously, right, vase, and then you see Baz's face outline. The vase is more than just a family heirloom. I don't know how Charmaine did it, because y'all know I'm new in this historical fiction era genre. Like, that's not typically what I gravitate towards. Usually romance will be my thing, and then I would say followed by thriller. Baby, I don't even be really wanting to read romance anymore. But this, y'all, I wish I had the words. I wish I had the words that I had when I finished it. Let me check my Goodreads. Hold on. You hold. Don't go nowhere. Okay, friends, I'm back. I did not write a review, surprisingly, like I thought I had. However, I was more so captivated by the multiple POVs that this book had. And multiple POVs can be very tricky. However, every POV, which I'm sure any author goes into a book, a story, saying that this POV is important to the plot, the storyline, but every single one was, and they played a nice role. And there was also a very nice balance, right? Every POV did not have the same amount of chapters. They all were given like enough. Whatever that POV was supposed to give, it was adequate for the storyline. And I just don't know how she made it so engaging the entire book. I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she did it, but she did it so well. From the family heirloom and just the generation, because I want to say it went back to like early 1800s, at least like early 1800s from what I can remember. And I believe present day was like 2019, and I know the pandemic was also mentioned towards the end of the book when things were getting ready to wrap up. So a span like from 1800 to like 2020, and all of these POVs in between. And again, the heirloom, her brother, her trauma, her as in the main character, oh my gosh, what's her name, Ebby, and her parents and her grandparents, and the significance of her great grands and them coming here, you know, post-slavery, right, freedom, and just the wealth that they were able to maintain, well, build and then maintain, and just how it, y'all, I don't know, it came together beautifully. Charmaine, bravo. But Good Dirt was 5 stars, y'all. That was my redemption that I needed for the month of June, because I was like, this entire month is very lukewarm. Now that was that. Now there is somewhere in here, I think before I even got to Good Dirt, I said I need something, right? And at this time, I remember this day specifically, and I just needed something that wasn't on my TBR. I was in the mood for a thriller, and I was like, girl, you don't even have a thriller on your TBR. And so, as I showed you on the previous video, I did finally get King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. But I remember a friend of mine, maybe like 2 months ago, saying that I need to read My Darkest Prayer. And it was the shortest one. It's about 6 hours. I said, oh, perfect. I put on my beats. I was cleaning our room. And y'all, I pretty much almost finished that book in a day on that Saturday. Truly, I almost finished it. The only reason I did it is because once I was done by the night, I was done and I had like, I think, showered and eaten. I think I had like 35 minutes left and I had got in bed trying to finish it. These eyes were getting heavy. And so I woke up the next morning and I finished it, and I was just like, wow. Like, S.A. Cosby, you about to be uncle, my thriller uncle. Excuse my language. It was a damn good story. And if you've read My Darkest Prayer, I absolutely love Skunk. Skunk is the best friend. Y'all know, I can't remember names. What is the male character name? Obviously I remember Skunk. Okay, so for my review on Goodreads, I did rate it a 4.5 stars as stated, and then I said, oh my gosh, or OMG, I need to find my words. I have been avoiding books by S.A. Cosby for some time because I was just being scary. And then I went on to say, and I laughed and I said, but I was in the mood for something thrilling yesterday and decided to pick up one of his books. After reviewing the synopsis of each book, I landed on My Darkest Prayer because it was the shortest one, like I had mentioned. And I do not regret it. The book had me hooked from the very beginning. I love Nate as a main character and how he was an upstanding man until you pissed him off, LOL. I thought this story was going to be scary. It wasn't, but it was so full of action and I enjoyed every bit of it. Can't wait to dive into more of his books. That is what got me. So I guess you could say it was thrilling. Would you use thrilling and suspense like synonymously? It wasn't thrilling to me as like, right? Like, I know it wasn't going to give horror. Well, perhaps I did think that. But it wasn't a horror. It was more thrilling. But I feel like it was more kind of like suspenseful. Like, kind of had you on the edge of your seat. I don't know. Thrilling and suspense may be the same thing. But it was the action in there for me. And when it comes to movies, I am an action movie girl. I love action. Followed by I love comedy. Then of course, you know me, like just by default, I'm a person who loves love, but like action movies is my thing. And I think because it had like, and it wasn't like no corny action either. It's kind of hard to explain. Just know, like I said, Nate is an upstanding man until you piss him off. And then, like I said, the best friend Skunk. Yeah, that was it. And the only reason I did not give it a 5 is because I felt like it wasn't as thrilling. I don't know what else you would categorize it as. I guess, honestly, since it was, I guess the basis of the story was, you know, him working at his cousin's funeral home and just things that kind of like unraveled from there. That's kind of where that thrilling aspect will come from. But y'all, it was so good. So that's the only reason I didn't give it a 5. Is because I felt like, for example, when I read The Silent Patient, I was jumping, I was scared. And since I necessarily did not do that, that's the only reason I did not give it a 5. But that does not take away anything from this book. Let me be very clear. It does not take away anything from this book. One last book I did try to read. This also was not on my TBR. I will say I went ahead and DNF'd it officially today, the day I'm recording this video, which is June 30th. Is 1 and 4 by Lucinda Berry. I cannot remember exactly why I picked it up. I think perhaps, because I was like, oh, I still want something thrilling. I would have to check my Fable calendar to tell y'all exactly in what order I read these books. But I did start 1 and 4, and I did that on my Kindle. It's a part of Kindle Unlimited. I think I discovered that book some months ago and was like, oh, like, you know, I want to give Lucinda Berry a try. And I honestly DNF'd the book just because it was pretty heavy on like sexual assault, and I was just like not in the mood for that. I was like, yeah, no, I think I'm gonna just end my June here. Like, it's fine, you know. I think I did fairly well for me to have 7 books on a TBR. I technically read 4 of those 7, but I mean, adding S.A. Cosby, I read 5 books for the month. And so I said, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. And so I just DNF'd 1 and 4 for now. I'm not exactly sure if I do want to give Lucinda Berry another try again, but perhaps, you know, when I'm ready for that. I really need to like read the synopsis of something. And at one point I did, but when I picked it back up, I just said, oh yeah, click, and I started reading. And then I was like, yeah, no. So that's where we are. All right, friends, so if you made it to this video, the end of this video, thank you so much. I hope you guys can see how I technically had 2 books that were able to redeem my month of June, and that was Good Dirt by Charmaine Wilkerson, and then My Darkest Prayer by S.A. Cosby. Those 2 books literally saved this month, because this month was really murky and lukewarm and uninteresting. But if you made it all the way to the video, thank you so much. Let me know if you read any of these books, and if so, what were your thoughts on them? And I will go ahead and stop talking now and see y'all in the next one. Bye.